And Ryan Day just said that Nicholas would get the start at right tackle on Saturday. I know you want to play multiple guys there, but what's the difference between Nick this year that maybe gives him that edge?
I tell you, he's done a great job during this pandemic. There's a few guys, but he's one of them that has really changed his body. He is stronger. He's bigger. He's 315 pounds now. He's as strong as he ever was. And his offseason, his development has really pushed him to the top of that position. He's just done a great job.
I know there's been lots of stories about all the calories and everything that he had to eat to go through and get bigger. Sometimes I guess people just rush that a 5-star freshman needs to be ready to play right away. This is a pretty common time frame for someone to become a starter at this position. Is that right?
That's correct. That's absolutely correct. He's right on track of where I thought he would be, where we thought he would be. And he went home. The funny thing about it is all the calories. He went home and was with mom an extended period of time, and she put her foot down and took the thing over, to be quite honest with you, and fed him every day and got him up to where he's supposed to be. So that was kind of a blessing.
Thanks, man.
All right, next up we'll go to Bill Rabinowitz from the Columbus Dispatch. Bill.
Yes, hi, Stud. Harry Miller has won the left guard job, which is not a shock. Could you just kind of describe what he has done to win that job, how effective you think he'll be? Because I remember last year he came in and people marveled at how well he picked up things as a freshman.
I think that's the first thing, mentally. And again, that's why you tend to put those guys into that position of center, because they learn everything. And then you can move them out and expand them out. And then at the same time, you've already developed a young player at center who could possibly go there later on. But that's number one, the mental aspect of it. Number two was, much like Nick, during this pandemic, when he was home, he had a place to work out. He had someone to train with. And he is so much, the numbers in his lifts when he got back blew the numbers from when he left away. And so that was the second thing. He's powerful now. Again, he's about 315 pounds now, and he's really strong. His lower body got extremely strong and gave him the ability to go play that guard position and handle 3 techniques. So the same thing as I said along with Nick, his development during this time was just critical.
And you as an offensive line are being counted on to be the foundation of the team. It always is. How confident are you that the line you've got, and obviously you've got Wyatt Davis and Josh Myers and Thayer and all, how confident are you that this line can be a dominating line?
Very confident. I have confidence in all those guys. They've played before. They've all been in games before. It's not going to shock anybody. They're starting to gel now as a unit with the time that we've had in this past month, which was really my only concern through this whole pandemic, was getting them to gel together and play as 5 guys with new guys at positions and that stuff. So, and they've done that. They're going to continue to develop, but I'm extremely confident they're going to play really well.
All right. Thanks, Todd.
Yeah.
All right, next up is Brendan Gulock from Buckeyes Now on Sports Illustrated. Brendan.
Coach, thanks for your time here. Want to ask you about the leadership on the offensive line. Obviously, you've got a couple of team captains there, but I'm curious, everybody wants leadership within their position group. How have you seen, whether it's guys like Josh or Wyatt or guys that aren't captains, how have you seen them really step up as team leaders, not just position group leaders?
Those things to me are judged when you're in the weight room and when you're at practice, how they work and the things they do and the accountability level that they hold the other players up to. They live up to it themselves. So part of it's by their actions, and then the other part is by their words and what they say to guys that might not be having such a good day or might not be going hard in the weight room or workouts. That's where it really is really important. And those guys, like you said, the 2 captains, but then again, you got Thayer, and Thayer does a great job with those young tackles, helping those kids along. His leadership has really developed tremendously now that he's really back into the swing of things with his health, with his weight, with his strength. And so he's another guy that's leading in there. So those guys do a great job, but off the field at practice and at workouts and things in the weight room is where I look and see that stuff, and those guys really stand out.
Can you tell us, too, a little bit about the challenge that Nebraska's front 7 presents for you this week?
Yeah, they're big, strong guys. They were last year. They had 3 outstanding players in there last year, and the guys that are starting now all played last year as backups. They're very experienced. They're big and strong. And it's going to be a test for us to be able to move them off the ball. And that was the same thing we said going into the game last year. We had a high amount of respect for that group. And the same thing this year. We've got to come off low pad level and be physical against a group like this and be able to move the line of scrimmage. So it's going to be a challenge for us.
Thank you.
Next up is Dan Hope from 11 Warriors with Nathan Baird on deck. Dan.
Hey, Greg. Ryan has said that Paris is going to play, Dawand's going to play. What exactly do you envision for those guys in terms of what their role can be going forward?
Well, we've approached it differently with this COVID thing. When you get your starters in there, you like to get those guys into the groove of the game and get them going and all those things and play those guys so they can develop a cohesiveness. But now with this COVID, at any minute you may lose a guy. And so this guy may be gone the day before the game, the night before the game, 2 days before the game, whatever it may be. So the development of those second guys has been more critical this year, and we've worked at it. And we put those guys, we've been in practice situations. Hey, this guy's out. We got to go. Here we go. So we've planned for that. We practiced for it. And those young guys have to develop a little bit faster, in my opinion, than they normally would because of the circumstances we're in. And I think they're right on track. They're not there yet. They got a ways to go. But their ability and what they've done so far, how they've worked, how they've picked things up in this situation has been really good. So I wouldn't be hesitant to play any of them. And I hope that we can play them and get them in there as much as we can. But it's different than it's ever been before.
Who are some of the other guys on that second team unit who you look at as the next man up if you lose somebody?
I'll tell you, inside, Matt Jones and Enokk have been really, really good. Again, same thing. They both developed in the offseason. They're bigger. They're stronger. They got a better understanding of the game. They both got playing time last year, game experience in there in certain situations. So inside, I like those two guys in there that are really have been good this camp so far. And then outside, we got Paris and Dawand at tackle, who again have both played outstanding, talented young men. They're just still picking things up and learning things on the run, but they're doing a great job. So those four right there, and then at center, Luke Weipler. Again, much like Harry last year, it's almost a mimic of Harry. He's a really smart, intelligent football kid. He's tough. He's picked things up there at the center spot. He's been running the number 2 center for a long time now. So all 5 of those guys, I think, are continuing to grow as we move forward.
Thanks, Greg.
And next up is Nathan Baird from Cleveland.com with Spencer Holbrook on deck. Nathan.
Hey, Greg, you mentioned the kind of the gelling together, the cohesiveness of this offensive line. Were there things that you were trying to get them to do or that they were doing on their own during the separation that helped make that more possible this fall?
Yeah, there's a lot of things. And again, it was different. Here's the catch is that usually happens during those 15 practices in the spring. And obviously we didn't have that opportunity. And then even when we came back and got back going June 1st, all positions could do their stuff, but we could do nothing man on man. There could be no contact. So obviously that's what our game is. We can run around in our underwear out there all you want and say, that's a great job. But until you got to block somebody and move somebody from point A to point B, we tried to simulate that as best we could during this COVID thing until we could get the pads on and go. So yeah, we worked it the entire summer through video before we got back here in June, and then through walkthroughs and things like that, trying to get them in the best situation without having the contact, obviously, that we couldn't have then. But yeah, it was a daily basis going through those things to at least show them the pictures, see what's going to happen, and be able to react so they can make those pictures in their mind and prepare.
Is it just the working out next to each other that brings that cohesiveness, or was there something in terms of increased communication or just that kind of camaraderie that you also try to introduce to that?
No doubt that all came. We did a lot of that through Zoom meetings. We put them in there as a group and said, hey, here's the front, here's the play. Matter of fact, we went through with the second group each game from last year and had them make the calls. I didn't say anything. I put it up there on the film. Here we go. Here's the play. What's your calls? What are you thinking? What are you going to do? What's it look like? Through those things over and over and over until we could go again. And that way, that kind of hearing what that guy's saying, hearing what's in his mind, that got to start, in the summertime, and it's continued.
Next up is Spencer Holbrook from Letterman Row with Dave Biddle on deck. Spencer.
Hey, Greg, how much easier is it to get all these freshmen like Grant and Josh Fryer and those guys playing time when you know that they're not on a 4-game limit this year?
Oh, it's awesome. That's been a real blessing to hear those things. And once that came out, you can get those guys extra playing time when they wouldn't have been able to do that before. So it'll be a blessing for those kids, and hopefully going into next season in the spring and after this is over, it'll, get their growth way ahead of where it probably should be. So it's a really good thing.
How much improvement did you need to see out of Wyatt Davis this year? Because when you have an All-American guy come back, it seems like there's not much he can really improve on. Where did you really challenge him this offseason to get better?
Well, the first thing we did was, when he thought about he's going to come out and he's going to leave, was we sat and we looked at the reports that the general managers had said on him about the draft. And I took what those guys said, what they saw as strengths and weaknesses, and I sat down and I said, okay, here we go. Here's what they think you're really good at. And I did this with Josh and with Thayer, and the same thing. But here's what you're really good at, okay? How can we enhance it and make you better? And then here's what they think you're weak at. Okay, let's attack this problem. All right, and so we found 3 or 4 things in each one of those guys' games, and we've been doing drills and technique things since the summer to try to make them better at those things.
In the interest of time, if we could just limit to one question here, we got a couple more that we want to get through. We'll go with Dave Biddle from 247 Sports with Bill Landis on deck. Dave.
Hi, Greg. You mentioned that Thayer Munford is doing well. Can you discuss him a little bit more, just specifically how his back is feeling and where his weight is at right now?
Yeah, he's about 318 as of this morning. I just saw him a little bit ago, which is right where he should be. He played last year. The back was healthy. He was, but he'd missed 9 months of strength and conditioning. And I mean the powerful strength and conditioning, the heavy lifting, the heavy aspects. And then through 2-a-days was really limited until we could get the back ready to where it really felt really well about halfway through the season. Now he's in the best shape of his life. His weight, like I said, is 318. He seems quicker than he was last year to me, and his strength levels are back up. He's got some more drive, leg power coming off the football. I've noticed the other day in the scrimmage, he was driving guys down the field, and I didn't see that a lot from him last year. It was spotty. It wasn't consistent. And so making him consistent, and the fact that in his mind, he has nothing holding him back now. He's not worried about what's going to happen with that back or anything like that. He's passed those tests, and so he's ready to let it loose. And it's really exciting because he really feels good mentally. He's really in a good place.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Next up is Bill Landis from The Athletic with Joey Kaufman on deck. Bill.
Hey, Greg. Ryan said a couple weeks ago, I think, that Dawand was moving around a little bit, playing tackle, playing some guard. I hear that, and I think that's a really big guard. What about Dawand's skill set allows him to play both those spots?
It's unbelievable. Like I said, when there was a question, when Wyatt said he was going to leave and we weren't sure he was going to come back, and those things were going on, I put him in there. I said, hey, you know what? Let's try this out here and see how you can do it. And it was unbelievable. And for him to be able, a lot of guys had questions when I did it. I'm not sure. And then after about 3 practices, there were no more questions. He was mentally, he was learning it, but the physical tools that he has are unbelievable. He's athletic. We're still trying to get his weight where it's at the best possible weight for him. So we're still working through those things. But for him to go down there and do that, and he jumped at it. It was so unbelievable. The kid is such a competitor. All he wants to do is compete. And for him to go down there and do those things and be able to play that position at guard, and for a first-timer play it pretty doggone well, was unbelievable.
All righty, next up is Joey Kaufman from the Columbus Dispatch with Tim May on deck. Joey.
Greg, you mentioned for Nick, when he went back home in quarantine, he was able to get some home cooking from his mom. Do you know what was on the menu, or what was he eating?
She called me and asked me, Coach, you're going to have to send some groceries because I can't make enough pasta. So I know he was eating a ton of pasta. She was making spaghetti and some lasagna and his favorite meals. And he ate her out of house and home. She was so fired up when it was over to get him back here because she couldn't afford it anymore.
Was that ever a concern with him? Just because, going into quarantine, you have no idea how these guys are going to have access to the same number of food, and you guys had spent a lot of time trying to make sure he was hitting certain calorie requirements.
Oh my gosh, it was unbelievable. And that's why you realize you're at the best place in America when we can supplement those kids and their parents feeding these kids with an athletic director that goes in there and lets you send them food home and send them supplements home and do those things. But I was on the phone early. I was panicked about that, not worried, panicked. And being able to see those guys and get them the right things to eat at home, no matter what the circumstances were, was unbelievable. Instead of it being a weakness, when you look at Harry and you look at Nick and you look at Matt Jones and you look at Enokk and those kids, they come back and they're bigger and stronger during this thing. It worked out being the greatest thing in the world for us. So, and they took advantage of it. But with a school and a program that backs you, it was unbelievable.
All right, and our last questioner for today will be Tim May from the Tim May podcast. Tim.
Thank you very much. Hi, Coach Stud. I was just wondering, when Wyatt Davis said, "I'm coming back," what was your immediate reaction? Was it hallelujah? Was it good golly? What was just your immediate reaction?
There might have been a hallelujah in there.
You look like a hallelujah guy. Number two.
Amen.
Yeah. And number two, let's go. A lot of talk. I mean, some of it perpetrated by me and many others. This could be as good an offensive line as maybe we've seen around this place. What is your sense of that headed into this game? I know it's play by play, game by game, but what is your sense of just from a starting unit and then like the backups you've got, where this line could kind of fit if it takes care of its knitting?
Yeah, you're right. I agree. I was so proud of the guys last year because I thought that was one of the best lines in the country and how they played last year. And I think these guys, I told them the other day, I said, I think you guys can be better. And that's our goal. Our goal is to take what we did last year and be better. And the physicalness and all the things that it takes in there, they're all capable of doing. And the backups, I mean, I'm not as nervous as I usually am about backups going into the first game because even the backups have played. Other than Luke, those guys have played in games. And they're bigger, they're stronger, their attention to detail has been tremendous. So I totally agree. The potential for this group to be a great offensive line is right there. Now they got to go out and they got to do what last year's group did. You take it game by game, you go out there and you give everything you can for that game, then let's move on to the next one game at a time. And so far, that's what they're doing. But you're exactly right.
Thank you, man.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to click on that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing, and come visit us over at BuckeyeGrove.com for all the best Ohio State information on the web.